In this lecture, we will have a detailed look on what exactly is the engineering design process. So what kind of process do design engineers follow to actually bring to life the machine from its concept to its detailed design. So the first step is to identify the need. As you have already seen, machine design is initiated because of certain functional requirements, certain need. So that need has to be identified. What are the needs which are to be met by the machine? What are the functional requirements the machine has to satisfy? That is the first step. Next step is to define the problem in a thorough manner. Questions like what would define the final output function? What would be the requirements that would be catered to by the machine? And what are the constraints? What are the design constraints which have been set on the machine? Questions like these are asked and an exhaustive problem definition is created during this step. Because it is very important to know upfront what are the requirements apart from the basic functional requirements, what are the other requirements which the machine has to cater to. For example, if you are designing a rotating machinery and that rotating machinery is exposed to a highly corrosive environment in its operating condition. In that case, we need to make sure that our design is suitable for that environmental condition. So that is an additional requirement which is created because of its usage. When we talk of design constraints, there can be many different types of constraints. For example, what can be the maximum size of the machine? What can be the maximum weight of the machine? What is the cost, or what maximum cost can be incurred, within which cost constraint the machine has to be designed. So these are many different types of constraints, and the problem has to be well understood at this point. Exactly what is to be done has to be understood, and that is why knowing the constraints, knowing the requirements in the most detailed manner is very important at this step of the engineering design process. After defining the problem thoroughly, the next step is to synthesize. Synthesis, as we have already seen by the definition, is the combination of multiple elements into a whole. So generation of the concept, combination of the elements into a whole is done. The selection of the various elements, the various concepts of elements is done during this stage, and it gets clear as to what type of machine are we going to design. So this is the stage in which you actually the embodiment of the machine is brought about. Next step is to then go into deep dive, that is to analyze each and every individual element and detailing of the concept, that is whatever the concept has been created during the synthesis stage, whatever the embodiment of the machine has been created, now that is to be detailed, and the detailing is done with analytical reasoning of the design decisions. So whatever design decisions have been taken during the synthesis stage are re-evaluated during the analysis stage and made sure that all the different elements are analyzed and designed optimally for the requirements. After the analysis, the next natural step is to evaluate in the actual working conditions. That is to prototype the machine and then to test it in the actual working environment, or in the worst case working environment. So that would give the actual idea as to what is happening to the machine and whether it is performing to its functional level or not, whether it is able to last its life, whether it's reliable, whether it's safe. All of that is tested in the actual prototype. So this is the generic engineering design process for a machine design. It is important to note over here is the whole process is highly iterative in nature, especially after evaluation. There is no design which is complete for the first time. Whenever you go through this process, there will always be some revisions, some repetition. There is always to and fro iterations which are done between analysis and synthesis. And also there can be changes in the definition of the problem itself. So those may be rare, but it does happen during the actual design of the machines.